or anything.
Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. A beat, a pulse, hope. Yes, there is life to these Huskers.
And you hear those drum beats, and then you're like, okay, you can feel it. And I think Rule knows that. He's tried to hit that right in the teeth. I got up there and just crushed it.
History may be against them, but their season hopes are alive.
Skins! Touchdown, Nebraska! Off to the races. 10-5, touchdown, Nebraska.
Now the scene shifts to Matt Rule and the rest of the new coaching staff.
We're where top producers go to be with other top producers. We want to be with the best of the best.
Throws. Touchdown. His second interception on the season. Multiple flags come down on the return, but it's going to be Nebraska football.
Huskers, Gophers.
I'm done. Let's go. Let's go.
The season kicks off tonight.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score!
Brown for the win. The kick is up. And it is good. He got it. Nebraska wins it. Second 10. Hawkins in the gun gets the snap. Sets, throws, batted down. Intercepted it. Two to the 20, 15. Hawkins traps him, knocks him, touchdown, 2. Let's see, they're going to put it down, yep, at the 47-yard line. So if he were to hit it, it'll go in the books as the longest in school history. This is an attempt of 57 yards. Does he have enough? Is it long enough? He got it!
Huskers, Gophers, are you ready?
Good morning and welcome to Game Day. We're glad to have you here and getting your day started with Damon Benning and myself. I'm Ravi Lulla. This is the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. DB, how are we doing in Minnesota this morning?
We're okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I right now you're coming like through my computer, so I'm just making sure that everybody's good to go. But man, I'm good. I'm good.
How was the trip up there? I know you were on a little bit of a tight schedule getting there. Everything goes smoothly. We good up there?
Yeah, it's cool. Like we didn't really take off. We took off at like 1:20. They had sent a new itinerary, so we were originally going to be wheels up at 1:10. We ended up, I think, wheels started to move about 1:22. They made up the time in the air and got here. I'm down at the I'm downtown, and there was a ton of people, so it's very organized, right? Yeah, you get off sequentially by bus. They drop your bags off. They've got your keys and stuff waiting for you. And some of the support staff was already out here early. So, they have their shakes and, their power bowls and all their other stuff like ready at the table so they can grab one if they want one where their keys are because they're already laid out. And then they started meetings relatively soon right after that. So it's a well-oiled machine, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we will get to a ton of obviously Husker football today. You can join us on YouTube where Nick is already chiming in with a Go Big Red, getting his chant game right here at 7:00 in the morning. We appreciate that. Our guy Thomas chiming in as well. And David, we can start here. Thomas says last time Nebraska played on a Thursday, T-Magic had a breakout performance. Who on Nebraska is most likely to have a breakout performance tonight? You have some candidates in your head that you think might show out tonight?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's that type of offense.
Right.
but I think consistency will be the thing. I don't usually do the whole kind of breakout thing unless I think something has been clear cut via practice, right? Where I'm like, okay, I could see such and such. I don't know how they're going to call the football game. I don't know how they want to play it. So I think the best thing for them to do is take care of the football. I don't think anybody would have picked T Magic before that one either. So I kind of just play it by ear.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, you can join us on YouTube. You can join us on Twitter where we're streaming live. You can join the show on the War Horse phone line, 888-638-4876. Jam-packed show for you here today. We're going to start at 8 a.m. with guests with Michael Rose-Ivey. You may remember him from his days playing for the Big Red. I'm excited about this one. I've never talked to Michael before, but he'll be joining us every week, right, DB?
Yeah, MIR, man. We're going to get our medical report and see what it means, what the upcoming opponent looks like. It's just kind of peel back the layers and see why how they do what they like to do.
So we'll have Michael Rose-Ivey at 8. We'll have our friend Brian Edwards get some gambling advice at 8:45. And then our guy Michael Bruns from Husker 24/7 at 9 a.m. Before we get into all that, though, I kind of wanted to start with Husker volleyball to make sure that we didn't blow right past that in our excitement to get to game day, which I know everybody is pumped for. But I don't know how much you had a chance to see last night, Damon, while you were kind of getting settled in Minnesota. But just scrolling through social media, obviously watching on the Big Ten Network, that was probably one of the coolest sporting event moments I can remember outside of, obviously you've got championships and things like that, but that was a really cool moment for the state of Nebraska. Honestly, it kind of made me proud to be a Nebraskan just to see the response and the energy in Memorial Stadium. I'm curious how much you were able to actually see that with your schedule up there.
Yeah, I did get a chance to see it. I walked over to after spending basically all day trying to figure out where I was going to eat, because that's just how I am. I ended up going to a place called Hell's Kitchen, and about 6 minutes from my hotel. And originally I was just going to kind of be solo because AK had to do some editing. Sip and Robin were, they were still like an hour out, and they were going to a fancy steakhouse. And so I just kind of was moseying over. AK texted like 6:45, and it's like, hey, Taylor and I are going to start walking. Where are we heading? And I just said, hey, this is where I was going. So they moseyed on down. My dumb butt ended up settling on breakfast, which was not what I had in mind, but it's kind of how it goes. But there were probably 10, 12 Husker fans down there, which I was trying to avoid, right? Like I didn't wear any Nebraska gear. There were a couple of places we could have gone that I felt like were going to be Nebraska heavy. So I didn't want to do that. And still, I mean, a lot of Nebraskans here. But the coolest thing for me was, like I know deep down, just knowing Coach Cook, how much he likes Nebraska football.
Mm-hmm.
And so watching him come out of that tunnel to the music, I'm just going to ask, what that music and that tunnel walk based on how, you grew up loving football the way you did was kind of cool for me. I liked watching the athletes kind of know how to handle it, but not really know how to handle it. Like there was just a certain amount of freshness to it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody hit the shoe. They didn't tap the door on the way out. When do we jog? Like it was just, I think all those things are cool.
Yeah.
But when we're watching it on the Big Ten Network, because they played it at the restaurant, and they started to pan the deal, and God bless those drones. We're like, no way. We're like, yeah. Tyler's like, yeah, it's sold out. And I'm like, 90K, that's a lot. And they kept panning. And I mean, that was like a legit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It wasn't like, I mean, we've seen some home attendance numbers. And we're like, I don't
That
know.
was a butts in seats 90K.
Man, listen, that thing was unbelievable. And, the kind of the wry smile from Coach Buttermore and at Omaha and just the players kind of soaking it all in. It was I like the word you used, proud. It seemed kind of surreal as you're watching it, especially as I was, watching Beeson on ESPN this morning, and just the smiles, the faces, right? Like this. I just would have said it in kind of that slow red voice, like this is Nebraska, right? Like that's what it embodied.
I thought it was really it kind of caught me off guard a little bit to see how emotional Coach Cook got. I mean, I get it, right? But I had never I've never seen him. First of all, I don't think I've ever seen him that emotional. And secondly, he kind of comes across as sort of a stoic guy.
Yeah, he can. For a guy with such a great sense of humor, his demeanor can be extremely mechanical.
Yeah, like he comes across as the strong, silent type and kind of internalizes a lot of things. And so to see him kind of openly break down a little bit on the air, I think twice, was honestly a pretty cool moment to maybe humanize is not the right word, but make him more relatable, right?
Yeah.
Made him, because I think a lot of people, myself included, I don't want to say I got emotional, but like watching the tunnel walk and things like that, I did get goosebumps, and it was a really cool moment because, I mean, for a lot of people involved, right? Because, John Cook started coaching volleyball at like a high school in San Diego, right? Like, I mean, there's no way this guy ever thought he was going to lead a team out in front of 90,000 people. And same thing with the players, it wasn't that long ago. And they made this point on the broadcast a couple times where this program and basically every volleyball program was counting their attendance on like their hands, basically, right? Like they were counting attendance in dozens, not tens of thousands. And so to just kind of see that moment was a little overwhelming. And obviously it was for Coach Cook as well.
Yeah, just to see him kind of so much of athletics is handling emotions and channeling emotions and what to do with it. And so those are always the things that I'm always trying to pay attention to. And for even a guy that's as accomplished and distinguished and decorated as Coach Cook, that was the first for him at this stage in his career too. So I'm pretty happy for him. I thought the whole thing was well done, and kudos to not only the folks covering it, but behind the scenes, the vision from Trev, his team to pull it off, the setup of the stadium, like that just doesn't happen overnight. And there are a lot of collab, especially with, football playing tonight, and you got some split crew that's on the road. Like it's pretty impressive.
Well, and the thing that ended up really resonating with me was after the match, Coach Cook, in while he was kind of tearing up a little bit, was talking about making the impossible possible, right? And that's this thing that really resonated with me because that's kind of the thing that I love most about sports, right? Is all of these things that we think are not possible, every once in a while we get a glimpse of them being possible, like the first football game I ever watched start to finish. I don't think I've ever told you this. The first football game I ever watched start to finish was Nebraska versus Miami in the Orange Bowl in 1995, following the 1994 season, right? That's the first game. I was 7 years old. That's the first game I ever watched start to finish. I'd like listened on the radio all year because like we didn't have cable. Not all the games were on TV back then. And so I'm listening to, I think it was Kent Pavelka back then on my little transistor Walkman radio, right? And then that's the first game I actually watched. And you're watching this thing and you don't realize that those things, you're not supposed to come back against Miami in the Orange Bowl, right? You're not supposed to wear down Miami in the Orange Bowl. And so you kind of get this sense of what's possible at a young age, even though in a grander scale of things, like Tom Osborne wasn't supposed to be able to win the big one, and Nebraska couldn't get over the hump to win a national championship. All these things, right? You know the narratives.
Yeah.
And it seemed like an impossible feat. But when I'm a kid and I'm watching this, it's like, oh, no, this is what Nebraska does. This is what sports is all about. And it kind of is, those are the things that make you fall in love with sports and with competition and the whole thing, right? It's a very romantic notion of sports. And it's probably more rare than I realized when I was a kid, right? But it's really nice when you get these types of moments that remind you of sort of the possibilities out there when, again, like I said, there's no way he ever thought he was going to march a volleyball team out in front of 90,000 people. There's no way the people on his team ever thought that was possible. And then we saw it last night. And that was just kind of the thing that got to me most, was just how incredible some of the things that we get to experience because of sports are.
I can't wait to get a chance to kind of get behind the scenes for his real thoughts, because he's a very good speaker.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that quick wit, he's always got something kind of funny, and he has this nice blend of being able to be thoughtful and funny at the same time. I know his demeanor doesn't exude that, but the Coach Cook, I think, that the players see does. Like, he's a very good orator.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to hear him put it into words, like what it was doing to him inside real time, would be interesting, just because he has grown up such a fan. And I remember last night, a couple of the fans were like, oh, this looks like football. And I cringe, but I get it, right? Because that was volleyball's moment for women's sports and for the state of Nebraska to celebrate kind of the excellence that is commitment to a program, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's really what that's about.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm sad or happy that it still gets the football analogy, but I get it because it's in the football stadium. But that was a culmination of just a lot of things that isn't really football related, except it was in Memorial Stadium, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're celebrating those state schools on volleyball day. I just think it couldn't happen to a better program and a better guy. And with all the upsets that we've seen so far in college volleyball, better be on your P's and Q's every night out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't want to leave Omaha out of this either. Obviously, they were, that's a really cool experience for them, but it's also probably kind of a strange experience for them. It's obviously they lose the match in straight sets, and you talked about controlling emotions earlier. I thought Nebraska might drop a set just because of that, right? Because it's a totally foreign environment for them to play a volleyball game.
Was that TK that asked us yesterday? We were split on that.
Yeah, you said they would sweep. I said, I think they might drop one because, like I said, that's a totally foreign environment. Having coached before, and you, I'm sure, understand as well. Sometimes when you take people to places they've never been before, even just physically, or like literally just playing in a place you've never been before, it can be kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it was interesting, right? For example, did you see Lexi Rodriguez coming out of the tunnel?
Yeah. She
was kind of like all shucksy and kind of light and like not really sure what to do. But then you watch her play on the court and it's like, she's a dog, right?
Yeah.
Like, she gets it in. And so I think managing, I just use that as an example because you never know until the lights come on in that moment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's how you kind of can tell how elite some of these athletes are, right? Is because basically as soon as it was go time, they were ready to go, regardless of the surroundings, regardless, we both like the movie For Love of the Game. They kind of clear the mechanism, right? And everything else fades out.
Air high five for the call on For the Love of the Game.
Dude, I love that movie. I love that movie. And so they kind of clear everything else out and they get focused. And that was, outside of the trappings of the whole thing, that was the thing I was most impressed by the actual match, was their ability just to block out this huge event that was being put on and still be able to perform at a really high level in honestly a way you would expect them to. So that was really cool as well. But I do want to give credit to Omaha. They were in a it was a really cool experience for them as well. But it was also, they weren't expected to win. If they had won, it probably that would have been really tough for everybody there because most people there are Nebraska fans. So they were in kind of a strange spot, even though it was a really cool experience for them as well.
Yeah. and they handled the moment. And, I have a ton of respect for Coach Buttermore and that program. So and it's Omaha, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think my affinity for the Mavs has been on full display on more than one occasion. So, I'm happy that they got the opportunity, and it will be good for the program. And I think hopefully, he can use it as sort of as a recruiting tool.
So I wanted to ask you this before we kind of wrap up the volleyball talk, because I know we need to get to Nebraska football and game day, but I wanted to make sure the volleyball day in Nebraska got its due. I'm curious, is this something you think they're going to try and do again? Was this like a one-off special event? That's what I'm kind of wondering.
I could see some bigger venues maybe than their normal home court, but I don't think you'll see 92,000 again, right? I think that was I want to say once in a lifetime. I know somebody's going to try it. You watch. But I don't think it will be Nebraska, because I just don't think it wants to be the type of university nor the program that wants to do things just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
So while you may do a collab to play in a big venue, right? T-Mobile Arena or something like that, 90K may be a little much.
Yeah, at 92,003.
Maybe I'll come over here to the Target Center. It's right behind me.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Maybe they'll send one out over to Charles Schwab Field in Omaha, see what happens out there. I don't know how that would work at a baseball stadium, but who knows? I didn't know how it was going to work at a football stadium, and they figured it out there too.
When you're traveling for AAU basketball, sometimes I'll be out here in Eden Prairie or some of these high end suburbs in Minnesota. I'm dab smack in the heart of downtown, and it's interesting. I'm folks in crevices and stuff, corners. Guy, had to use the restroom right in front of where we were eating last night. Caught Andy Kindy off guard. Oh, he still managed to choke down his smash burger, but downtown is interesting.
All right. Well, we've got plenty more of the show coming up next. That's Damon Benning. I'm Ravi Lulla here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, and ESPN Tri-Cities.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes.
Still don't know why I can't.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute.
Hey, Shane.
We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Merritt Beeson at the service line for Nebraska. And overpass kill. And the 2 decades plus of John Cook. Several national championships later, and Nebraska's closing in on a world record-breaking night sweep. And back set for Beeson. Hammers it down.
This is unbelievable for women's athletics to do this in Nebraska. You know, we've dreamed big here tonight. We really dreamed big, and again, I think Kennedy Orr wrote me a note today and said, "Coach, tonight we'll do the impossible will be possible." We did it.
We are back on the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, and our friends in Central Nebraska, ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm live here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
You are looking live.
Damon Benning out there in his hotel room in Minneapolis.
How do I sound, Ravi? Am I okay?
Yeah, your audio sounds good. You still listen to me through your speakers?
No, I'm gonna figure that thing out. But
okay,
yeah.
In a good mood or what?
I just talked to him. My buddy Degenerate Aaron, he said I sounded tired, man. I'm like, listen, when you talk for 55 hours in a 24-hour day, sometimes your voice sounds strained, but my energy is, I feel good.
Yeah, no, you seem energetic.
I know my voice is a little raspy. Like, I get that. It's just okay. But man, I was getting on the elevator yesterday, and it's crazy. I'm usually talking about, I don't know. Somehow a Rizak comes up on the show a lot, right? So it's usually Anthony.
I wonder why that is.
No, so I'm getting on the elevator yesterday, and Anthony's dad's got a buddy that was here. He's like, hey, he's like, DB, he was with his wife. He's here for the game. He goes, yeah, we're up here for the Minnesota game. We had no idea you guys are staying here. Is everybody else here? And I was like, yeah, they're around here somewhere, right? It's like, it is so, it's just interesting. Like, I miss this kind of as a player, and I understand full well why Coach Rule embraces this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watching the guys load up on the bus to go see the movie, seeing them get the meal room ready to go eat, and everybody looks the same, and it's right now it's pretty cool. It got real. Even getting on the plane yesterday, I don't think it got real for a lot of those guys. It's real when you step off the bus and they throw those bags out in front and they put them all in order. Like, it's go time. The demeanor changes, and yeah, I like the feel. If I had to describe it, I would call it a quiet. This is from Coach Rule and the staff, a quiet confidence. Now, how that manifests itself tonight, I don't know. We'll see here shortly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, if I had to choose, I think I would take quiet confidence. I think that's a mindset that, because those are kind of the guys that you have to watch out for a little bit. The guys that don't say a lot, but you can tell carry themselves with an air of confidence.
You in a good mood or what?
Those are the ones that can be a little bit dangerous. So I'm glad to hear you say that. We'll get to kind of our predictions for the game, the season, all that kind of stuff a little bit later. But, I think I'm higher than most on the team this year, and certainly today.
I think for you won't admit this out loud because you're kind of that big kind of prickly bear. a lot of it has to do with how much you like Coach Rule.
Oh no, it's 100% that.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm glad you're admitting that out loud. Would you like for me to close my blinds? Or
it's up to you. I'm good. Whatever.
You cool with that? I don't really care what I look like. So, and I think Sasha and Avery are either they're probably off the plane because Sasha asked me if her directions worked. I told her I'm still on the struggle bus, but I'll figure it out. I just didn't want it to be too bright for you.
No, you're all good. Whatever you're comfortable with, we're good here. We're an adaptable bunch here, right? Yeah. Gotta get in where you fit in, right?
My room is immaculate. If anybody were to walk in here, I have my 2 pair of shoes sitting right next to each other. My clothes are laid out. My duffel bag is in the other bed. I have my long sleeve tee kind of stretched out so it doesn't wrinkle, and everything is in its spot, right? It's like Bernie Mac when he talked about if something's broke and when you live by yourself, you know who the heck did it. Like I know where everything is right now, and I'm loving it. It's like McDonald's.
DB high rolling over there, not having a bunk mate, just gets his own room. It's nice to be Damon Benning sometimes.
I don't know about that. I saw my man Omar Hales, who I obviously spent a lot of time with, put a "Do Not Disturb" sign on his door from like the minute he got here. So I think he enjoys a little downtime.
Nah.
See, I would have pegged you.
He's hilarious, man. He's got to be everywhere. So I'm sure he enjoys his. I'm sure he enjoys his shoes.
I would have pegged you as a "Do Not Disturb" guy the moment you got in the door.
No, I don't have the stones, right? Because somebody may need something.
You know what I mean? Okay, yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, I'm not that guy. But nobody's really seen me. I talked to because I stayed in my room until I went to walk to go eat, and I saw a lot of the guys getting on the elevator. I've never felt so small. I saw Barrett Liebentritt, and I used to coach him, and he got on the elevator. He said, "Hey, coach." I was like, "Whoa." He said, "Barrett." So you got a lot more muscles than you used to.
I think a lot of people in that program have a lot more muscles
just
than they
this
used to.
little wry, tough guy. I like to run into things, smile. He goes, yeah, it's been a little while. I've been in the weight room. It's like, I was talking to Coach Barthel about him, and because I was getting some hugs from some guys coming through, and it just so happened it was a lot of local guys. So it was like Snodgrass and AJ Rollins and Kobe Bretts, Tristan Alvano, Jalen Lloyd, right? So it looks like I would be a popular guy.
Yeah.
And EJ's like, man, he said, Rule said you should run for mayor. And I said, well, I'd never win in Lincoln. I had too many skeletons to win in Omaha. I said, I just know these guys, right? And he was telling me, he said, how do you know Barrett? And I said, oh, I used to coach him when he was in, Pee Wee football. And I said, you'd never guess this. I said, that dude is a closet genius. I said, his parents are really bright, and he's super smart. He looked at me, he smiled, and he said, if you knew how fast he learned our playbook, you'd know that I know exactly what you're talking about. He said, this dude has become a leader in our room. And I'm like, in my head, man, I'm like, I am not surprised.
Well, I mean, you don't just like casually go to Notre Dame.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it just was funny the way he looked at me, because EJ's kind of he's a big, mean looking guy.
Yeah.
And he just cracked that little smile. He's like, man, you just seen how he whipped through our playbook, which is a good thing, because I think there's a couple guys in that backfield where that was key. Liebentritt, Bonner, Anthony Grant. They had a lot of work to do to get in that playbook.
Especially with,
Teddy
guys.
Prohaska looked really good. I was happy. I wanted to jump on his back and give him a hug, but I didn't know. I was like, yeah, that might be a little awkward. Not a fan.
Don't hurt that knee, my guy. Leave him alone.
Yeah. He looks thin.
Dude, a lot of those big, that's what I was saying about Ty Robinson yesterday, and obviously Teddy's even taller, but a lot of those really tall big guys on this team have look really lean.
Yeah. AJ Rollins, and people that know AJ doesn't talk a ton, and he gave me like 7 one-word answers in a row, and until I joked with him about him having because he hooped in high school. I said, man, I said, you actually now you're back to looking like a hooper. I said, man, these guys, they're just mammoth. These poor people that are getting in the elevator that are just here to do like regular things are looking at these guys. One of the ladies was like, "Do you guys have a game? Are you with a team?"
No, we just have an
assembly.
No,
I know I won't say one of the players. I know he wanted to say something slick to her on the hotel on the elevator, but he didn't. He was like, "Yes, ma'am."
That's good. You appreciate the restraint there.
Especially when you can only get about 7 of them in an elevator at a time.
I was going to say 7 was higher than I would have guessed. It must not all be offensive linemen if you got 7 in there.
Man.
All right, coming up next, we're going to get to some things like keys to the game and what we think Nebraska needs to do if they're going to win this thing against Minnesota. That's Damon Benning. I'm Ravi Lulla. More of the show coming up next.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds.
We're going to build a
Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
We're going to build a team that's tough. We're going to build a team that's hardworking. We're going to compete at everything that we do. There's not a game that I expect to ever walk into where we don't expect to win.
That's the head man, Coach Matt Rule, getting ready for his first game as the head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And we're getting you ready here on the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. You know, Damon, that clip kind of reminds me of something we've sort of hinted at throughout the week, right? And haven't actually gotten into.
What do you mean? Like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or a different kind of hint?
Well, we sort of teased it a little bit, right? You know, I keep putting it on our little rundown sheet, and we never actually get to it because we only ever get to like.
I went through those emails from Monday and Tuesday. We're over.
Yeah, we are. Which is great. That means it's a good radio show.
It's kind of funny. It's like, oh, we should probably can these emails.
Well, you know, I like having ideas in case for some reason the conversation isn't flowing, right? But one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot this week was Nick Baugh on his podcast.
Yeah.
He was previewing the season with Bo Ruud, and the Minnesota game, Nick said he would be more surprised by Nebraska winning the game than he would be if they lost by 2+ touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that kind of struck me really oddly because I thought 7.5 was too big of a number for Minnesota.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know, and we talked about this yesterday, Minnesota's offense is probably going to look a little different, maybe a little more big play oriented, certainly probably going to pass it a little more.
Yeah. How about we'll just go with balance to keep it safe, a little more
balance, right? That's fair because, you know, in years past, they've been almost 70-30 rush to pass on some of those on the high end. And so I anticipate that being closer to a 50-50 split. But I don't know. Every time I think about this, I don't see Nebraska getting blown out. And 2 touchdowns, not necessarily a blowout, whatever. But I can't get myself to a place. And maybe this is because of, like you said earlier, my affinity for Matt Rule. I don't see that happening. Am I crazy? Am I blinded by my own affinity for the coaching staff?
Don't use the word blind because then you know I'll sing and that gives the little pocket Hercules behind you momentum. I don't know if blind is the word. I mean, if would I be shocked if Minnesota rolled out of here with a 24-10 win tonight? No. Um, but do I think that's going to happen? I don't think that. But you got to 24-10 or 31-17 would not be out of the realm of possibilities for something that could happen for Nebraska. On Big Red Wrap Up, I was the only guy that picked Nebraska. Even though our margins were all the same, 4 points.
Sure.
Well, I think Severe might have said 27-20. Jay Moore was 27-23. I was 24-20. And I think Seviere, is that where they put the apostrophe? Was 27-20. So and I don't know. I just get the sense. I told this I was talking to DJ yesterday on my way to Lincoln, Rezak, and he's a life coach, and we were talking about work and output, and I said, just watching them this off season, they've earned the right to win. I don't know if they deserve the right to win, right? Because there's that humility that comes with where the program has been, and it's humbling. And it doesn't always go that way, right? In athletics. So I'm very cautious not to use earned and deserved. I've said this 100 times. If we truly got what we deserved, none of us would be here. So
right.
I like this.
No one would be happy.
Yeah, I like to stick with the earned thing. They've earned the right to be in a dogfight tonight against Minnesota. I just don't know if they will.
Yeah, that's an interesting distinction because now that you say it, does anyone deserve to win? Right? Like, I don't know that.
I mean, typically you'll hear people use those words once the game plays out, and you maybe didn't catch a couple of breaks, and they'll say, "Oh man, they deserve to win." I don't know. I mean, in competition, it's competitive. Like, what makes one more deserving than the other, unless it's just a clear-cut better body of work. Do you know what I mean? But sports is like that. Anytime you compete, you gotta be careful about using the word deserve. I think in life, you gotta be careful about using the word deserves.
Yeah, like you said, if we all got what we deserve, that's probably a bad look.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
I know it certainly would be for me, but I think you're right. I think earned is the right word, and that's obvious. That's been a huge theme of what they've talked about all off season is not just earning the right to win, but earning the right to even play a football game, right? Like, you have to earn the right to even get to show up, which I think is a really kind of unique way to look at things. Before we hop in any further, we've got Scott on the Warhorse phone line. Scott, what do you want to talk about today?
Hey, good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. What a couple of days in Nebraska. Just goosebumps last night watching that. ESPN covered it and some other national outlets. So very cool. Today's exciting. I wanted to ask you guys, what would you see tonight that would disappoint you? And I don't mean, a loss. I mean, I thought we'd look way more athletic. I thought we'd be more disciplined. So what would be a couple things that would kind of surprise you, even early on? Curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks, and have a great day.
I appreciate that. That's a fantastic question.
Oh, it's a great question. Thank you, Scott. It's an easy answer for me.
I'll give you a couple to the good and a couple to the bad. Okay. If Nebraska comes out and throws for like 260, and like 10 yards of completion,
so big chunk passing plays,
that would surprise me. It would also surprise me if Nebraska did not look organized defensely. You see a lot of palms up. Like, we can't stand palms up guys. Like, what'd I do? That's a pet peeve. So, like, that would surprise me to the bad. If it were gonna go a different way. The other thing that would surprise me is if Nebraska on special teams found a way to break this thing open tonight on the road. That would surprise me. Other than that, I don't know. It's an opener. Anything can happen. I don't expect Nebraska to be a heavily penalized team. If they were tonight, that would be out of character. That would let me know, to Scott's point, that would let me know that they're a little they're out of sync, right? That would be out of character if I saw a heavily penalized team tonight, because they have not been up to this point.
Yeah, so that was kind of where I was going. You know, he asked what would disappoint us. I'd be disappointed if it looked sloppy. You know, I think there might be some physical execution that they may not be totally in sync with yet, but the things you're talking about, lining up correctly, penalties, I'd be really disappointed if those were still issues, right? Because those have obviously been issues in years past. And I mean, and especially with turnovers, that goes back way before the Scott Frost era. But if they were still playing that kind of mistake-ridden football after all we've heard about accountability and holding each other responsible and, you know, earning the right to be on the field and all that kind of stuff, if that was still happening, I would be really, really disappointed.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will, right? Because I think this coaching staff knows what they're doing with all of that. But that would hurt me deeply because of what I believe about this coaching staff.
Oh, I'm hurt. I'm so hurt. Hey, what's the matter? I'm just in my feels. Give me a second.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of things that would surprise me, I agree. If they came out and were really airing it out with Jeff Sims, I'd be really surprised by that. I don't know if there was a ton else. You say you'd be surprised if they broke it on special teams. I don't know that I would be.
Yeah.
Kind of with the emphasis that they've put on it.
Yeah, but you'd be defying some history.
Sure, but I mean that's what we're counting on for this whole regime, right? With Coach Rule is bucking the recent trend of what the history of Nebraska football has been. And honestly, special teams is a good way to get that rolling, is to get that started because of how much it changes the momentum of games.
Yeah, I would. It's funny you say that. It's not a. For some reason, yesterday in the way to the airport, we were talking about special teams, and I was on the phone, and DJ was referencing Rathman going to Syracuse on the road and getting smoked. Some older Nebraska fans can remember what that opening kickoff did to Nebraska, and Rathman get knocked out when Nebraska went to the Carrier Dome. And I said, it's funny. Coach Osborne used to say that all the time, right? Special teams, the opening play of the game can change the course of the game. It really sets the tenor, this, that, and the other. And I said, most people think he's talking about, Blaha and Rude in Oklahoma. I said, I think he's talking about Syracuse and Nebraska, because Nebraska was clearly the better team. Syracuse got him that night, that day in the Carrier Dome, and he said it started on special teams. We saw it Friday night, right, with prep, where you come out and you play a certain way early on that opening kick, it can set the tone. It just hasn't been that way for Nebraska. And I thought it was strange that Coach Rule used the example of a punt return getting housed and being down 7-0 when he smiled, right? I was like, ooh, that sounds a little like ominous foreshadowing. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Michael Rose-Ivey coming up next on Benning and Lulla.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes.
And I think, we believe that on the football field, iron sharpens iron. So I think if things aren't being done the way they're supposed to, we say we're going to do something that doesn't happen, whether it's a coach or you're a coach always come out of your game and say, we just got to execute better.
The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
And I think, we believe that on the football field, iron sharpens iron. So I think if things aren't being done the way they're supposed to, if we say we're going to do something, it doesn't happen. Like, whether it's a coach or player, like the way we went, the way everyone, you know how coaches always come out after games and say we just got to execute better. What does that mean? It means everyone's got to do exactly what they're supposed to do. So.
This is the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla, and we are joined now on the Warhorse phone line by former Husker and current high school coach Michael Rose-Ivey. Michael, how are you this morning?
Doing good, man. Doing some laundry. So, typical life of my
What? MRI, man. Are you serious? That the life of a happily married guy with a great kiddo. How's being a father been, man? Like, I look at some of your pictures online, man. You got to be loving life.
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. I told my wife the other day, man, I'm soft now, man. I'm gonna cry like 2 nights ago, putting down to sleep, because usually he doesn't let me sit in the rocking chair in his room because that's what his mom would tell me.
Oh yeah.
Well, mom went out of town, and he let me sit in the rocking chair. So he how to soften me up already. So I gotta get it right before he gets older.
That's funny stuff.
The original tough guy struggling with being a softie. Don't I know it, man? It happens to the worst of us.
You're seeing it right now. Your boy's growing up right in front of you. I'm like, God dang it.
It's tough.
Michael, let's hop right into Nebraska here. I'm curious, just obviously we've had several months since Coach Rule has been hired at Nebraska. Just what's your overall view of how he's done in the off season? I know there's, doesn't win you any games to do well in the off season, but just what's been your overall vibe of how he's changed how the program's run?
So I got to see Coach Rule, I believe in February. He came to Kansas City and spoke at a clinic here. Also got to go to the practice and stuff. And obviously seen everything online. The culture, it's what he talked about. He's been very intentional. You can tell, like, it's something he's formulated over, the many years that he's been coaching. And I think it's just that culture build, the way he talks. He talks about competitiveness on the daily. And I just think it gives guys an understanding of what your role is, what we need you to do to be successful. And, I just think he's just done a great job of building the confidence of the guys that were there and then bringing in some guys that, obviously can play a little bit.
MRI, it's interesting. A lot of times, folks from a spiritual background will always talk about, speaking things into existence and the power of prayer and being audible with your words. And then there'll be leaderships and private entities that will say, hey, listen, if you want to be great, you have to talk about being great. When you're watching this staff work and you listen to press conferences, are you surprised that they're so intentional with common language? Or is that just what you've grown accustomed to good leaders doing? The common language is mind-blowing.
Yeah. I was just watching some press conferences, just skimming through a couple coaches, and again, I think that's the thing that's most impressive is that even when I was at the, one of their practices, or not really practices, their workouts, just the cohesiveness of the staff.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same page. Coach Rule has no problem stopping everything, getting the coaches together and saying, hey, we ain't doing it right. We can be yelling at these guys, but we're not doing it right now.
Yeah.
That's something, man, I really took to my staff this year. I think, man, a good coach, a good leader is a coach of his coaches, And I think Rule takes that to heart. He truly believes in development, and you're seeing it at every level.
So MRI, real quick, Ravi, I got it. Mm-hmm. They were at a practice one day, and they're into stations now in multiple reps, and there's kind of some whisperings of his get back guys, and they got the megaphone, and you can kind of tell Coach Rule is not happy with something. You don't know what just yet. All of a sudden, the whistle blows. He tells the guys to water down. He says, hey, go grab a drink, whatever. He brings the coaches, and he says, hey, look. He says, a lot of us are standing around, you're 2 plays early. We're on play 6 versus play 4. And when we transition, I want it to be Chris coming fresh off work. You got it? Are we good? And I just was like, just the fact that, not everybody was vibing on the same page at the same time. And he was foreseeing somebody getting done early and the potential of standing around. Like he just wasn't gonna have it. So he was proactive in preventing it. I thought it was interesting.
For sure. Yeah, he's a guy. He's had enough experience where he's kind of been in every situation. But I think that I think he's doing everything you're supposed to be doing in the offseason to build the program the right way, especially coming off what we came off of. So I think he's doing a good job, man. He's very intentional.
Michael, what are you hoping to see in terms of actually on the football field that has been different or that will be different than what we've seen in the last few years from Nebraska football?
I think just cohesiveness, man. I guess it's hindsight 2020, coach gets fired and, Bean starts spilling this X, Y, Z. But, not to even look back in there, but I just think the cohesiveness. I think everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows what their role is. And just getting back to that standard. I'm not saying we got to be there this year, 10-3, 9. But I think the progress has to be seen on the field. Getting off the field on third down, not making bonehead mistakes in critical situations, not turning the ball over. Those type of things. If we can get back to that, obviously the players will come. We got the facility, we got everything else, man. It's just really just hey, let's just get back on track. Let's get back on track, and then let's see how fast we go. Let's not go fast and still be unstable, right? Let's get on track, and then let's see how fast we can go with this thing and build it this year, and then next year let's build off that.
Getting inside the Gophers with our medical report from getting our MRI, our weekly dose of Michael Rose-Ivey. MRI, when you're looking at Minnesota, you've got a ton of experience playing against them. You know how they like to run the ball. Now, they've got co-coordinators, right? They've got a passing game coordinator, run game coordinator. I think they're much better outside the numbers than they have been. But if Minnesota's going to be Minnesota and run the football with those zone schemes, what happens with Nebraska in this 3-3-5 that you think is maybe a cause for concern, or some things that maybe you like?
I think the biggest concern is obviously that 3-3-5 getting overly aggressive to stop that run, to stop and get guys in the box and get the play action pass. But I think just in the run in general, I was actually watching Minnesota's defense versus Purdue last night, I think. And honestly, Minnesota's defense was very similar to what I think Nebraska's defense is like. I mean, they're a chaotic bunch. They do a lot of stuff. Purdue was into my formation, some pro stuff that I could see Nebraska being in tonight. And, they're going to – I mean, hey, look, first, second down, they're going to be bringing somebody from somewhere. And then, interestingly, third down, they like to get them drop 8. So I could definitely see Nebraska kind of being a version of that. Obviously the front, getting the front to, be strong and style is going to be important, linebackers flowing, things like that. But like you said, I think the thing with Minnesota this year is, like you said, they're much better on the outside skill-wise. I think probably they've been as a collective, at least I've been there.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think you're right.
Daniel, I got to give a big shout out. Daniel Jackson, Kansas City, Bishop Neage High School.
Hey, he may be their best receiver. It's not Altman Bell. I think Jackson might be the man.
Yeah, and I that quarterback. I watched that Wisconsin game again. Calic
Manis?
Yeah, Calic Manis, yes. Reminds me a little bit of a Kenny Pickett type. Not really a runner, per se, would be their first thought. But my biggest thing with Nebraska third down wise is make sure to keep him in the pocket, because he can make plays if you need to. And I think he did a great job in that game, at least, throwing off the play action stuff. So, stopping the run game is going to be the biggest thing. Because, that's what they want to do. That's how the boat gets rolled, per se. They're going to run the ball, and they got it. I mean, they got a guy from Western Michigan that transferred in, who I think was like top 10, top 15 in all-purpose yards last year. So, I mean, they do lose Ibrahim. He's gone, but I mean, he's a guy who's going to step in. I think he's a little bit more dynamic. Ibrahim not as much straight ahead at you and downhill. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think Tony White's going to have his hands full a little bit, trying to decide, hey, what are we going to take away? I'm going to put the ball in the quarterback's hands, and try to stop the run heavily. So it'll be interesting.
We're talking with former Husker Michael Rose-Ivey. Michael, you were talking about kind of the way Minnesota's defense likes to operate. What are some things that you think Nebraska could take advantage of with the way Minnesota likes to play defense?
They better figure out a way to get after the passer.
Michael, you still there?
We might have lost.
Did we lose him?
I'll look for him here.
Okay, thanks, Shane.
Hey, Shane, I appreciate that. It's good to hear your voice.
You miss him? You miss Shane a little bit, David?
Yeah, well, he's talking to me over the phone because, of course, he's paranoid that I can't get anything right, and apparently I wasn't. But, it's the first time I've heard his voice through the headsets.
I mean, listen, as long as your voice is going out over the air, that's the important thing, right?
Yeah. My buddy T-Mac was like, hey, I'm not sure what's going on. I can kind of hear some papers rustling. I'm like, hey, man, with me, I don't know where anything plugs into. I'm just like,
there's no telling.
Hoping a prayer.
Well, what I was trying to ask Michael, and we're efforting to get him back here, was more, the way he was talking about Minnesota's defense is kind of how Nebraska could attack that offensively. So I'm curious to see what he thinks there, because Nebraska's offense, I don't think, is going to be very familiar or very similar to Purdue's. I think we've got Michael back here on the phone. You back with us?
Yeah, school was built in the 1800s, so it's still a couple spots in here.
You mean it wasn't built to optimize cell phone reception? Is that what you're telling me?
No, a lot of brick walls.
Okay, Michael, I'll re-ask the question of you here. You were talking about Minnesota's defense and how Purdue was giving them some different looks in the game you were watching. What are some of the things you think Nebraska's offense can do in order to attack that Gopher defense?
I think first it's going to be very important for Sims to identify, coverage structure. I mean, they do a really, really good job. They'll spin into cover 3. They'll play some press cover 4 on the outside, and the safeties will have the number 2 vertical. They like cover 2 as well.
Rossi's a good coordinator.
Man, dude, look, when I was looking into him earlier this week, I was like, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I mean, he's got some creative ways to get to, some pretty unique things. They do like some underfronts a lot, but they are in a 3-man front. And like I said, they looked a lot like, just from clips of what I've seen in Nebraska in the spring and fall camp. I think that's the type of attacking defense. And the Big Ten, like people talked about 3-3-5 coming to the Big Ten. Man, there's teams that got it sprinkled throughout. If you really go look at film, that 3-3-5 is evident. Wisconsin, Minnesota. I'm trying to think of another one, which is Nebraska now, but it's not something that's too abnormal that I don't think Coach White's going to find a hard time looking at other Big Ten opponents. Okay, this is our structure. I know we're not going to copycat. We have what we do, but this is how they did it. And this is what we have. So let's kind of tailor it to that. But like I said, I think the biggest thing, man, is the third down. I was watching that Purdue game, and up to the first 4 games, they had given up only 6 third down conversions in 4 games, and they're a pretty good defense. So they got teams to third down quite a bit. And then another crazy stat I found, they're second behind Georgia, right, with the fewest amount allowed, second behind Georgia, right, and 16 or fewer points allowed in 18 games in the last 2 years. That's pretty dang impressive. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like I said, I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of Roger. I like their defense. I think they're fast flowing, and they play fast. They do a lot of different stuff, but it seems very sound though. That's the biggest thing about it. They do a lot of stuff, but the guys understand what they're doing. They play fast, so they got to convert on third down. Don't get into long third down situations, obviously. And if you do, you're going to get drop 8. You're going to get 3 guys rushing, and Tim's going to have to be a playmaker. With his feet. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Hey, so are you surprised, or maybe not now, that because you kind of just addressed it, but would you have realized, well, the top 5 defense in most statistical categories, they were great against the pass, they got off the field on third down, that they were second to last in the Big Ten in getting the quarterback to the ground? They did not sack the quarterback, but the back end, they just know where they need to be, and they get to it a multitude of ways.
Right. Yeah, and that was the thing, man. They pushed the pocket. They did a good job pushing the pocket, and they almost used like that 8th rusher, the 8th inside rusher as kind of an aggressive spy on that quarterback. And I think they're especially on third downs, they're like, hey, if it's 3rd and 10 and you get 2 yards on a scramble, 3 yards on a scramble, you get 7 yards on a scramble. Hey, we put our fist up. It's 4th down. Let's get the punt return. I think that's really their mindset. They're not going to. They're almost like they're like an Iowa in the sense they're going to play everything in front. They're not going to give up explosives. They're going to take the ball away, and they're going to be fundamentally sound in what they're doing. And you look at Iowa, it's the old Jim Johnson 4-3, cover 2, cover 4 look. And you look at Minnesota, it's like, well, it looks extravagant because they got the 3-3-5, but at the end of the day, they get to the same structures post snap, that Iowa would line up in pre snap. So. Like I said, I'm a big fan of them. Man. Like you said, I think it was number 8 ranked defense, 4 ranked in scoring defense. They were pretty dang good last year. That's a team I'm definitely gonna look into this year for some study stuff. So I think it's gonna be a good matchup. But I still feel like Nebraska will compete. I feel like like you said, we can't win any games the coach in the offseason. But I do think. Going to this first game, when I went during the workouts, they had Minnesota's hype video play. They've been having a hype video for Minnesota playing since spring ball. So I think Rules, psychologically doing something that I think.
Yes, 100%.
I really feel like they're gonna be really competitive. There's a lot of people who got 8-10 points on them, but I think they're gonna be competitive games. It's gonna come. The irony is, I bet you it comes down to a last possession game, and that's going to be the first mark on Rules record right there, is to see if we can we can play in crucial situations. So it'll be a good game. I'm excited for it.
Let me get you. This will be the last one from me. I tell people with Nebraska's willingness to use a tight end and H-back, whether he's displaced or in line, a fullback, whether he's an H-back or traditional, just two-back downhill running game, veer, trap, power, blast, ISO, things like that. How does that change being able to having to defend 3D run game, which is kind of more in your kitchen?
Right. I mean, especially as a defensive coordinator, it changes a lot. Obviously bringing somebody else in that structure. Talk about linebacker, being a linebacker, the first thing you talk about, with two backs is obviously going, across the formation, both of them. So, first, do our fundamental reads in line, right, with that, right? So some teams, right, they have to change a lot of their structure just to be able to cover just having two backs. And two,
exactly.
Yeah, I bet, the first play you guys talked about was ISO, trap, and power. Nowadays, the first run plays we see are inside zone, outside zone. So when you start to bring that, those type of run schemes into play, I mean, you're going to have to take a week to be able to really get those blocking schemes down, figure out how to actually play them and how you react. So I think that's the one thing that's a positive in being able to run those schemes is, guys don't really see those reps as much, and it becomes more of a, almost as focused of a rep as running against a triple option team. Now, obviously, it takes a little bit more detail, right, to get that scouted up and ran during a week. But I think it just changes the mindset, of the DC, of the linebackers and the D line that, hey, things can hit quick and get downhill fast, and we're not looking for a guy to A to B cut back like on inside zone. It's gonna be a lot quicker. So one false step, one late read. Hey, what could have been or should have been a 2-yard gain, 3-yard gain, he breaks it and he busts for about 8 to 10. So I think it's going to be a good mix of that. I'll be interested to see how much motion Nebraska's offense uses, just to be able to get Michigan
a ton.
And show their role and things like that. So
they'll have a ton of pre-snap movement.
I'm excited to see the offense versus Minnesota defense.
Yeah.
Michael, we'll get you out of here on this. It is Sports Talk Radio, so I got to ask the questions. Give me a prediction for tonight's game and what you think Nebraska's record is going to be this season.
I would say tonight Nebraska wins 27-21. And how many games they play?
12.
12. I would say anything 7 and above, get us bowl eligible, will be celebrated. I think I think the potential is there for them to win more. Obviously, the schedule, gets a little bit challenging in some spots, but if they can just win the games they're supposed to win, compete in the games, they're kind of a little bit of a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good first year, and I think Rule's in it for a long run. He has a long-term mentality, and I think the development is going to be there for them to really get things going when they can get more guys in there and get them developed. So I'm excited for the season, man. I'm trying to get up to about 2 or 3 games and come tailgate and hang out. So I'm excited to get up there.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it, Amari. I appreciate you, Michael.
No problem. I appreciate you guys.
That's our guy, Michael Rose-Ivey. He'll be joining us every week. What's up, BB?
I'm just gonna tell you, my heart just grew a little bit getting a chance to talk to somebody, because I've been saying this for a couple weeks, right? Like downhill run game changes the way that you can play along the fronts, and it's hard to explain over radio if you're not it's because it's football-y, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how he described that last stretch, that 5-minute segment, was beautiful. Cut back, A gap to B gap. It's different than inside zone and outside zone, which is what everybody runs. When you have downhill definitive run game, and that's not to say there's no place for inside outside zone. It's a fantastic concept.
Sure.
Right? Duo and doubling and 2x2 track, all that stuff is great. But being a little bit of a throwback with ISO and blast and power and veer, it changes just from last week to this week, getting ready from prep to Grand Island.
Mm-hmm.
We were tickled to see that prep had so much zone scheme, because that's, historically they haven't always been a zone team. So we're like, oh, okay, we won't have to reteach so much for Grand Island, who's all inside and outside zone. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you play a team like North or another two-back run team, that's another week of preparation, right? You hear me say it about it's very hard to be good up front with just zone read with no second running component. You have to be exceptional to be able to run the ball like that. This concept, I think, I'm curious to see how it plays out over time, because it's not what a lot of teams are used to if Nebraska can do it well. It's just it takes some time to prepare for, especially if you add in QB run game.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people they think of when they think about doing things differently that give people different looks, they think about kind of the sexier type plays, right? They think about things that are a little bit more exotic or a little bit more outside the box. The things you're talking about are pretty meat and potatoes, quote unquote, boring football, right? But because not that many people do it anymore, it actually can provide the same desired outcome as some of those more exotic looks. Am I understanding that right?
100%. He hit the nail on the head when he said, I would ask you what you'd run, and the first three things I would tell him, I'd say ISO, blast, and maybe power, right? Where blast, you're going to lead, power, you're going to kick out the end. Now it's like I ask him, and it's like, okay, inside zone and outside zone. Those schemes couldn't be any more different. It's just the difference of what's happened in the last 30 years.
Great stuff there from Michael Rose-Ivey on our Warhorse hotline. Remember, Warhorse in Lincoln, the only place you can place sports bets in Nebraska. You have to be at the casino to do it. Go visit our friends at Warhorse or download the app. More of Benning and Lulla coming up next.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds.
Well, I think our program, our entire program.
Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Well, I think our program, our entire program, is built on really one purpose. You know, we have a mission that we want to be the best team in college football and the best program in college football and the way that we do everything. But really our purpose and my purpose for taking this job and being in college football is so that young people, when they're 25, 30, 35, 40, that they say, you know what, my life is better because I went to Nebraska.
It is about 8:30 in the morning here in Omaha, Nebraska, and we're just about 10 and a half hours away from kickoff in Minnesota. I know. I'm not that I'm counting down or anything, DB. But you know what I am counting down is I've got to call our friends at Dingman's. I got in a little car accident last night, Damon.
What?
So I did. Yeah, it wasn't my fault. Somebody turned in front of me, but so I'm gonna have to go call our friends at Dingman's, get my Jeep looked at a little bit, have them take care of me over there. Yeah, Shano had to give me a ride to the studio this morning.
Oh wow, unbelievable! Shane picked you up in his little whatever color blue that little mobile is.
Shane.
He did. He was kind enough to come get me, which I really appreciate, and I'm sure I'll appreciate our friends at Dingman's as well. I've got a Jeep, but they can work on everything from your Ford to your Tesla, and they will get you going. Also,
better than a Tesla.
They've got that incredible give back program. They really focus on are Epic for Girls and the Collective for Hope. And, you know, I haven't decided which one I'll give back to with my trip over there. That is impending as soon as I get the insurance figured out. But I know whatever I choose, they will take care of me over at Dingman's. They've got those 4 locations that are super convenient. And because they're family owned and operated in Omaha for 25 years, I know I will be in good hands at Dingman's. So yeah, no, that's a true story though. I was in a car accident last night, so I think I'm okay.
I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, I'm too. But I like driving big cars. They take care of me when you get in an accident. It's my first accident in like 15 years though, Damon. I wasn't sure what to do exactly.
Oh, that's impeccable.
Yeah, no, I'm a terrible parker, but I'm a pretty good driver.
See, I'm just the opposite. I'm an okay driver, but my parking is unbelievably pristine. Did you see how I reparked the vehicle yesterday?
Yeah, I did. See,
I wasn't happy with it.
As our friend, your friend, Matt Rule would tell you, you're an elite parker. Elite.
I hope so.
I don't think so.
I'm not. Honestly, there's times when I come into the studio where I'll repark just because I was like, man, I don't want to hear it from Damon this morning.
Listen, it's okay. Again, my staff over at Westside is arguably the worst I've ever seen as a collective group. So you're going to be okay.
You know what's funny is I'm actually okay when there's other cars around because they give me like reference points. It's when I'm in an empty parking lot, I cannot find the lines.
And I guess to their defense, we do have exceptionally small parking. Like we're the bare minimum of stripes for parking spaces at the high school, but it is an absolute circus. It's everybody needs to be like Costco, right? We need the double lines.
The Costco parking lot is those spots are immaculate.
Yeah, if you screw up parking at Costco, you're intentionally being an idiot.
Yeah, there's no hope for you, I don't think. There's no hope at all. I appreciate that about Costco. That and the hot
jam a school bus in that bad boy.
I mean, that's about what I'm driving with that third row in there. It's enormous.
The Cabela's across the street is like that. I mean, the parking spots over there, I was just over there over the weekend, and the parking spots there are made for for your F800s or whatever are out there. So just amazing.
F800s. Shane, what were you getting at
I was about to ask.
Did you need a new Rambo knife, or are you looking for a new rod or reel? Like what were you getting?
I just wanted to go over there and look at the boots.
Oh yeah, his boots broke, remember?
Yeah. So I'm wearing the size 4 shoes like Damon thinks.
Dude, those are 4s though.
No.
I don't know if they're 4s, but you could certainly get those in the kids section.
No.
Dude, I was waiting for them to light up with Velcro.
Is it really hard to hear in here today, or is it just me?
You thought he was rocking the LA gear? You thought he was...
I mean,
if they could light up, I would wear these every single day.
I know Elton John had the song, but he just reminded me of like Tiny Dancer. Like he just
oh, come
on. As I'm looking at this Prince mural outside my hotel, this is a pretty place, man. I mean, downtown is relatively dirty, but this is a pretty view. But most downtowns are.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a fairly common occurrence in downtowns in pretty major cities there. But
when folks come from Egan or Eden Prairie, they got to feel like they're slumming it. I'm not going downtown.
Well, I mean, have you ever met people from West Omaha?
Well, I have some Oklahoma Tyler's a very nice person out there in West Omaha.
I'm just saying a lot of them are like, I'm not going east of the interstate.
Tough crowd. Ravi Lulla here for gerrymandering.
No, listen, I'm just saying when I was because I went to Miller North, right? I grew up in that neighborhood.
The old redliner, Ravi Lulla.
If people who know me, that's no. Yeah, we would it was like a thing. It was like, oh, you can't go downtown. It's dangerous down there. You gotta watch out.
Get my walk game right. I had to flip a coin whether do I really have the stones to walk to where the players are going to have breakfast in the ballroom and just get a plate to go. Like, is that just the epitome of?
I don't think they would blink twice. I think they.
Yeah, I just don't want to do that because I can. So I mean, I guess I don't even know if I'll eat breakfast. I typically don't eat on game days, right? But
is it like a nerves thing or what? You just aren't hungry. What's happening there?
I don't want to ever have to use the restroom. Thanks for asking out loud on public, but I'm going to answer the question.
That's what I do when I have to go on road trips. I dry myself out, man.
But since we don't leave here until 3:45, I give myself a chance to get reacclimated.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
problem is wheels up aren't until probably 12:45 tonight.
Yeah, that's gonna be a long day if you don't eat at all.
No, I've got some snacks. I'll send you a picture of how I'm doing it.
Okay.
I have some protein iced oatmeal. I got some things to tide me over. I want some meat though. I ate breakfast last night in a place that had an amazing menu, and my dumb butt felt rushed, even though I thought about it all day, and I ordered something I didn't even really want. It was the dumbest. So I'm walking home back to the hotel, and it's only like a 4-minute walk, and I'm still kicking myself. I'm like, of all. And Andy, they love their burgers, right? They looked amazing. These Juicy Lucy's, these smashed patties. You know, they had walleye nuggets I was thinking about. And I got breakfast, man. I got breakfast. And my bacon was just subpar. Pit ham was fantastic.
Yeah.
The bison sausage, amazing.
Not crispy enough on the bacon or what?
So, man, I mean, full disclosure, it tasted like syrup. I should have read that it was maple thick cut bacon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's just not my jam. If I want syrup, I'll have it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Well, hopefully you're
Hey, my man at Elite Nutrition, he just told me he'll hook me up with my game day nutrition. I'm serious. No, nothing fiber wise, okay, buddy?
Iron sharpens iron.
You got to be careful with those protein shakes too. You don't want to have.
Dude, I saw Coach White getting on the elevator yesterday.
Yeah,
my man is down like 25 lbs.
Yeah, you said he was leaning out.
Oh man.
But that was just from looking at his melon behind the podium at a presser. Like I actually saw him yesterday.
Yeah, you see that at Indy? How'd you know that?
Maybe he's on that Corey Campbell plan like the rest of the team.
Hey, that little musclehead was the first one on the plane yesterday, making sure that all the, because there's like snack bags and nutrition in every seat, and he was like front and center. He does not mess around.
That dude's a baller.
I've never met, talked to, or maybe even heard him speak, and I think I love him.
Yeah, he's your kind of dude. He is
a little meatball.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, hey, can I just like hang out? You don't have to talk to me. Can I just hang out?
And he's really, really competitive too. Like he'll change your gait when you're walking if it doesn't look right.
Oh, I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah, he's that dude.
My stuff right there.
He literally will keep you on your toes.
I love it. All right, coming up here in a couple minutes, we will talk to our friend Brian Edwards. We got real live college football this weekend, Damon. We got to get our betting game right.
I'm excited.
With B. Edwards. That's coming up next on Betting and Lulla.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
That's right. It's time for our friend Brian Edwards here on the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla on Hurrdat Sports Radio. You can check us out on AM 590, ESPN Tri-Cities, or if you want to see Brian Edwards' beautiful face, you can hang out with us on Twitter or YouTube. Brian, I see you rocking the Florida gear. I don't know about all that. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing well.
It's because he heard Cam Rising is doubtful. That's what it is. He heard Cam Rising's doubtful, so he's got his chest puffed out a little bit.
Well, I'm still on Utah actually, but I hope I'm wrong.
Listen, I like that. Right? What is it? 6.5, 7?
No, it's 4. Well, let's see. It was 4 or 4.5 at last look, but you're not off there, Damon. It has gone from 4 to 4.5 and bounced back up to 6.5 or 7 and done that little wiggle back and forth like 3 different times in the last 2 weeks based on various reports. But now that it pretty much he's out, well, it was at 4 or 4.5, but now it's looks like it's 5 It's 5 at Circa, Westgate, and South Point. Looks like 4.5 at the offshores and DraftKings.
So, Brian, with that information, Cam Rising does not look like he's going to play. Going to look like it's some combination of Barnes and Johnson at QB for Utah. How does that affect your play? You said you're still on Utah anyway. What do you like about the Utes, even without their star quarterback?
I just think they're better overall. They've won 14 in a row at home, 12 of those 14 wins by margins of 11 or more. They're better in the trenches. Not that Phil Steele's national unit rankings are the end-all, be-all, but he does have Utah's O-line ranked 5th. Their D-line ranked 10th, whereas Florida's D-line is ranked 55th and O-line 42nd. And then they're just higher. They've got higher ratings at all the other position groups. Utah's 15 at linebacker, 21 in the secondary, 14 at running back, 13 at QB, but that's meaning with rising. Now Barnes, did play a little last year. He completed 37 of 57 passes, which is 64.9%. 430 yards, 4-2 TD INT ratio, and he did have 116 rushing yards on just 20 attempts, 5.8 yards per carry. So, they're at home, and yeah, I just like Utah. Now, I played under 47 a couple weeks ago, but that's long gone. I can't recommend it at 44.
Brian, I'm
let's jump.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, DB.
No, I was just going to say I was going to get into South Carolina here, but go ahead. You can ask your question.
Oh, so I was just curious with the how much of that, with Florida playing on the road in a season opener outside the state of Florida for the first time in like 30 or 40 years, how much does that factor into kind of what we're looking at here?
Well, I mean, it is altitude, and the storm did make them adjust their travel plans. I don't think that has a lot to do with my play, but I mean, so Florida was going to leave on Wednesday, which I would rather leave early to adjust the altitude, but they flew to Dallas on Tuesday because they wanted to get out before the storm. They practiced in Dallas Tuesday. They flew to Salt Lake yesterday, and you're right, they have not played out of state in a season opener since they lost at Syracuse, or maybe it's in 91. I remember that. It was Spurs' second year. And then we have not played west of Texas in the regular season since a tie against USC in the mid 80s. I remember we were on probation. I was listening to it on the radio at my parents' old house in my like 4th, 5th grade years. Hey, I will add, Napier is good as an underdog. He's 17-5-1 against the spread, but I'm going with Utah.
B, does that South Carolina North Carolina line seem right to you?
I think it should be just a straight up pick 'em or South Carolina minus 1 or 2. I like South Carolina to win outright. So 2.5. I hadn't been moved off 2.5 this week, I don't think. Yeah, it looks like 2.5 still everywhere. I just like how South Carolina was playing at the end of the year. I thought Rattler was playing as good as anybody in the country. Now, there were some questions about Juice Wells, their stud receiver, 68 catches, 928 yards, 6 touchdowns last year. But he's been back at practice full speed all week. He was first team All SEC last year. I think South Carolina is going to be pretty good. Now, they did have some significant losses for sure. They lose Marshawn Lloyd to USC, Jordan Birch to Oregon, and Raheem Bell to FSU, or Jaheim Bell. I'm sorry. I knew I was getting that wrong. But anyhow.
That's Ravi's guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's going to be good for FSU and didn't get nearly enough touches. I actually don't blame him for leaving South Carolina. But I like their secondary. I like their receivers. They got the 5-star Nick Harbor, who's going to play, right away. And I just have questions about North Carolina's defense. And then their key transfer, the Kent State transfer wide receiver, was denied a waiver. Now, Mac Brown's been talking this week like they're still – I'm talking about Devontae Walker. Mac Brown's talking about they're still appealing. He's traveling with the team, but as of right now, he's not playing, and that's a pretty big deal.
These 2-time waiver guys, these waivers, they have been met with some no's a lot more frequently around the country than I would have thought originally. You better have some good reasons and some legit paperwork.
And I'm not against that rule. If you transfer a second time and don't want to sit out a year, you should have to be a graduate. I mean, I'm all for you getting one freebie, but now if there's circumstances, I get the appeal process and giving a waiver if there's circumstances that dictate it.
Brian, I'm looking at this LSU FSU line, LSU -2, a couple of off-season darlings for a lot of the national media in terms of potentially making a playoff and crashing that what has been a fairly routine party in the college football playoff. I need you to be honest with me here. How much your play on LSU is that it's against your arch rival here?
Not a whole lot. I'm super high on LSU. Like I bet them 16-1 to win the CFP. I bet them over 9.5. They've got the revenge angle. I don't think people should look at Orlando as like this monstrous advantage. FSU will definitely have more fans, but they were in Orlando when they were playing Oklahoma, when FSU was all in with their players, no opt-outs, nobody turning pro early. Oklahoma had guys opt out for the draft. They had guys hit the portal, were basically bringing their JV team, had over 500 yards of offense. And, FSU had to get a late field goal to win by 3, last time we saw them. And then their last regular season game, they gave up 38 to Florida a week after Florida couldn't score at Vandy. So I have questions about FSU's defense. And I know LSU ended up being a highly ranked team, but when they actually played the games, FSU only played 3 ranked teams last year, and they lost all 3 of those games. So for them to get to 10 wins last year, it was an accomplishment because they had been on hard times, but I think it's created a little too much offseason love. Now, I do think all the Jordan Travis love is legit, and I do think that Keon Coleman was a great get, the Michigan State transfer in the portal. Now, one of their projected starting receivers, Ja'Kai Douglas, is out for this game, but LSU's got a couple of guys that are out. They've got some injuries in the backfield, but they're deep there. And then their stud defensive tackle is got a 1-game suspension. He's not going to play, and I'm talking about Mason Smith. But I still like LSU if you can get them -3 or fewer. And at last look, they were 2.5 at most spots.
There's 2 state schools that are playing this weekend that I think are better than the public thinks. One of them's Fresno State. The other's Utah State. They're catching a big number. What do you think?
For me, this is more fading Iowa than Utah State, but I'm on Utah State. I got 24, but if it's 23.5 for you, I would buy the half point to 24. This is the biggest chalk roll for Iowa since its 2016 season opener, and they have only won by 24 or more once in their last 22 games. McNamara is probably going to play, but he's missed a lot of practice. Been banged up for a few weeks. They're going to be without Noah Shannon, their defensive tackle, 8.5 tackles for loss last year. And their Hawkeyes are 4-8 against the spread. Last 12 as a double-digit favorite. So give me Utah State. Needed to be 24. Not a huge play there. More just fading Iowa and expecting them not to score a lot of points.
Brian, we'll get you out of here on this one. We've got a battle of the Miamis, Ohio versus Florida, on the slate this weekend. What are you feeling there?
Okay, I'm going to go against the Canes. I'm going to go +17 Miami of Ohio. Same thing
It's
here.
a weird number. Light.
Yeah, if it's 16.5, buy it to 17. Miami of Ohio, 9 starters back from a defense that only gave up 22.6 points per game. They made a bowl, even though Brett Gabbert, their star QB, got a season-ending injury in week 4. He's got a 45-4 TD/INT ratio, and he's back and healthy.
That's our guy, Brian Edwards. We appreciate you as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Enjoy week 1, fellas. Good luck to the Huskers tonight.
That's Brian Edwards from MajorWager.com, BrianEdwardsSports.com. We'll be back with more Benning and Lulla here on AM 590 and ESPN Tri-Cities.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
This is Ravi Lulla. I want to talk to you about our friends at the Omaha Storm Chasers. It's not just game day for Nebraska. It is also game day for the Omaha Storm Chasers. This is their second to last homestand of the season, so make sure you get out there. They are home through Sunday, and I got to say that Sunday 2:05 p.m. start is looking pretty good to me because it's Bark in the Park day, and you know how much I love dogs. So get yourself some baseball, go out and pet some dogs out at Werner Park this weekend, and have yourself a good time. Joining us now is our friend Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntz, how you doing today? Bruntz, you there?
I'm here.
How are you, Michael?
I'm not bad.
Are you? Did you get up to Minnesota?
I am. We're in the Twin Cities.
How are the Twin Cities treating you?
Not bad. There's a little swagger in the Nebraska fans down at the breakfast buffet line in the lobby. So it's been a good trip so far. I missed volleyball night in Nebraska though, so that was a little disappointing. I was apparently the only one that wasn't there.
Yeah, I was, ironically enough, during the commercial break, they're kind of flipping through my social media, and I think every person I know was at that event with the pictures and everything. And at 92,000 strong, that's a pretty good bet that just about everybody knows in the state of Nebraska was there.
Yeah, it was a heck of an event. I wish I could have been there. It's too bad that they weren't able to do it maybe a little bit later in the season or on a weekend or something. But yeah, it's so it goes, and we're on to football time. No,
super cool experience there. I'm curious, you mentioned maybe a little bit of swagger with the Nebraska fans down getting their breakfast buffet. What's the contingent like up there? Is you seeing a pretty good amount of bright red as opposed to that nasty maroon?
Yeah, there's a lot of that, a lot of red so far. It's kind of going around last night. There's a lot of Nebraska fans up here. It's an easy trip, right? And when you're making the trip in August, it's a heck of a lot nicer than trying to do it like late October or November. So I'm expecting there's going to be a lot of Nebraska fans at this one. We'll see if the team can kind of hold up its end of the bargain.
Brunsey, I've been kind of intimating all week. I'm hoping for an identity crisis for Minnesota because I do think they're more talented outside the numbers than they have been in quite some time. Or is it a prove it deal for Nebraska in the secondary still, even though we like some of the names, or do you think we can kind of settle in with some sort of comfort?
Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of reading the local stuff this morning, they kind of feel like there's a lot of question marks around the offense and kind of what this is going to look like with a not new but newish guy running things and kind of the turnover that they've had at key spots. As far as Nebraska, yeah, I mean, you need that group to prove it. I don't know that there's anybody on this roster right now that doesn't have to prove it, just based on how things have played out the last few years. So I think you feel good about those guys, with how much football they've played. But, talking about the secondary, I mean, it's going to be some new faces. I mean, Deshaun Singleton's going to be in there really for the first time. You're probably going to see a little bit more Omar Brown than you've seen at any point during his Nebraska career. So, yeah, I mean, I think those guys are going to have to prove it. I mean, to throw the question back to you, I mean, is there a group right now on Nebraska's roster that's not a prove it type position group? I don't think there is.
Yeah, that I kind of like their corners, right? I like Hartzog. I like Newsome, but even Hartzog, you're right. It's like he doesn't wow you with his athleticism, but he did play young and he got a couple of picks. I know one of them, a couple were on some errant throws, but yeah, you're probably right for the most part. I don't know if there isn't a prove it group, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's why, it's the first week of the season. You get asked a lot for predictions and things like that. I mean, I just think that's why it's so difficult to kind of wrap your arms around what Nebraska is right now, just because of the number of question marks and, even veteran guys that kind of need to show up and do it under a different set of circumstances here.
Oh, don't worry, Bruns. The prediction questions are coming later from me because I'm a sports talk show cliche. But before we get there, I'm curious, if Nebraska is to win the game tonight, what are some of the things that you think you'll have to see in order for that to happen?
Well, you're going to have to win the turnover battle. I think that's going to be a big one. To me, Nebraska is going to have to win special teams. And I don't know, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to bring one all the way back, but I think you need to make that area a net positive for you. You need Alvano to show up and perform well. I think offensively, you're probably going to need to back Minnesota off the line a little bit and open up some room in the middle for you with deep shots and try and keep them from loading the box too much, because they're probably going to do that. And then defensively, I think they just need to play sound defense. I mean, Minnesota is going to probably, we assume is going to do a lot of play action stuff, the zone read stuff, stuff that they're kind of known for. And Nebraska is just going to have to play disciplined and have a few havoc plays too. So that's a long list of things you probably have to do. But, the thing that probably stands out above all, and Matt Rule's kind of hinted at this the last couple of weeks, is, you just need to play with poise. Nebraska is expecting a 4-quarter game, and you just need to be there in the fourth quarter when it matters to make some plays. And I think some of those things that I just listed off will allow them to be there, late and hopefully with a chance to win.
So, Brunsey, let me ask you something from Minnesota standpoint, because we always talk about Nebraska's pressure and their emotional psyche. It wasn't the easiest of off seasons for Minnesota, right? You have staff shakeup, you had a few player departures, you had the little hit piece come out, or whatever you want to call it. They're coming off a 9-win season, another one. Do you get the sense they're comfortable with who they are in terms of their pecking order, in terms of just repetitive excellence, or do you think there's something to prove for these guys in this program too?
No, I think there is something for them to prove. And, it seems like a program too that if you just kind of look at the opponents they've played at the start of seasons, that they've kind of, it's taken a few games, I think, for the engine to turn over for them sometimes. And I think that, you kind of have that coupled with, some really new faces at key spots in the coaching turnover. You don't want to say you're catching them at the right time, but I think this is probably a team that is going to need a few games to kind of get its feet under itself a little bit. So, yeah, I think, they're a program that has things to figure out, and certainly a lot of question marks too. I think, obviously covering Nebraska, I'm very laser focused on Nebraska's shortcomings and what they need to do to kind of get things rolling the right direction. But Minnesota's like a lot of teams in the Big Ten West right now, where everybody's got question marks, and some pretty significant ones. So Nebraska's not alone in kind of being an unknown, I think, as they get rolling on the season here.
We're talking with Michael Bruns from Husker 24/7. You mentioned that it's kind of in prove-it mode for basically everybody in every position group for Nebraska. Is there one of those that you are the most confident in them being able to prove it tonight?
I'll go. I think that I'd probably go to the defensive side of the ball. I think the secondary would be towards the top of that list. I think the linebacker group as well. It has guys that I think fit this scheme really well, and I feel moderately confident that they can, piece together a decent rotation. I know they've had some injury issues at times during fall camp, but I know they love John Bullock and what he can be, and I'll be curious to see kind of how he holds up in a Big Ten pounded out type game that I think it's going to be. But I think the secondary, I think probably. If the line can do its part, I think the running back group can get some work done as well. So I'd probably say running back and secondary, with the linebacker group kind of trailing behind those.
You have an X factor position group tonight, out of the obvious, that you think offense or defense that may catch us and Minnesota by surprise?
I'm eager to see what the tight end group is going to do tonight.
Me too. Me too.
Just based on kind of who I would assume is going to be traveling, they've got a chance to get some work done. And like I said, I think if early on, if you can kind of make Minnesota have to think about that deep ball, I think it's going to do a lot for what they can get done underneath the Kemp and those tight ends. It just seems like if you're trying to get Jeff Sims settled down and kind of in the flow of a game, those kind of, gimme type throws to the tight ends, I think can be really valuable. And, that group has obviously kind of been overshadowed by everything that's happened, not only with Gilbert's waiver claim, but, everything this week too. But I think that's a steady group that they have a lot of confidence in, and they're going to run 2 tight end sets. They talked about, offensive linemen being tight ends in big sets. So the tight end is going to be a piece of it, and Jarian Bonner certainly is going to be all over the place in certain situations as well. So I'm eager to see what that group can kind of do against this Minnesota defense.
Brunch, you mentioned Jeff Sims there. I'm curious, do you have any kind of statistical benchmarks in mind for what looks like a successful night for Jeff Sims?
I don't know. That's a good question. He's going to have to make plays with his legs, right?
Mm-hmm. I keep hearing that.
People are talking. but it's going to be, those plays on 3rd and 9 where he gets 11, slips out and gets 11, or, converts a 3rd down with his legs. That's that's going to be the most value, I think, to me tonight. The turnover number with him is going to be huge. That's a big statistical benchmark. But I don't know. Let's say he throws for 200 and runs for 50, 60. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to have to be a pretty balanced night from him. I don't think that Nebraska is just going to sit back there, drop back, and chuck it much at all tonight. I don't know that this line is built for that. So I think a lot of, and I don't know what my number is that I've arrived on yet, but a lot of his work, I think, is going to be done on those plays that just make defensive coordinators, kind of eat their hat, where you feel like you got him handled and bottled up and he gets out and he keeps the drive moving. I think that's going to be the number of those types of plays that he makes, I think, are going to be a bigger measure of his success tonight.
Man, I know these are like concrete numbers, so it's going to defy what I'm getting ready to say after that. But, like a 17 of 24 for a 200-yard night and 9 carries for 45 yards doesn't sound dynamic. But sometimes that's all they'll need. And I say that's all, like, you just get out of the rack and do that. But it's like if they're playing the way that they want to, that might be all it takes. Like I'm just a little, in the back of my mind, I'm a little concerned that we built him up to be this mythical Michael Vick-esque figure. And I just don't know if they need him to be that, right? Stay on schedule, run the ball, and be efficient. That should be the narrative. But somehow it's turned into this that he's like Randall Cunningham on crack. It's like I don't get that sense.
You need him. You don't need him to be Michael Vick, but you need him to be more than Trent Dilfer. I mean that's.
Well, you settle for a Donovan McNabb. No, I'm kidding. As we listing, like, I'm just glad you used a non-African American quarterback, Brunsey. That lets me know that we're not stereotyping too much. I mean, Trent Dilfer. I mean, good job there, Brunsey.
No, but I mean,
he's no Mark Wilson.
He doesn't need to be Randall Cunningham, but I do think like those types of plays are what. I think Nebraska really likes that he can do, right? I mean, that's one of the, aside from the big arm and everything else, but you're right. Your point's correct. Like if you're able to run the ball like Nebraska hopes that it can, you don't need him running all over the place, spinning out, extending plays 7-8 seconds. I mean, you just need to play smart football. And,
plus that's what Harburger somebody's for. Put him in for that.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's I'll be eager to see the reaction tomorrow when people see Jeff Sims in this game, because perhaps the way that he's been, like, I think your point is correct. I think that people kind of have this image in their mind of a particular kind of quarterback, and the way that Nebraska wants to play, you don't necessarily need kind of the crazy legs, 400 yards of total offense numbers from him. You would take it if you got it, but you don't need it.
Bruns, I'm wondering, you kind of, Damon kind of brought up Harburg there in jest. Do you think we're going to see, whether it's Harburg or maybe some other kind of Wildcat package, do you think we're going to see some of that? Because that is something that they did quite a bit with Satterfield in South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that Harburg probably would fit the bill if they're going to do it. I know from talking to guys that they brought into the program this summer, I mean, they'd even kind of floated that idea to a guy like a Cade Becker when he came back from Wyoming. It was like, hey, we can find certain packages for you. So it's in there. We'll kind of see how they decide to do it. But, you kind of parse out what they've said about Harburg in the past. And I think they see that opportunity for him to be a little bit of a change up. I mean, you probably know what's coming if he's in the game, but I mean, I get the sense that they want to use his athletic ability in some way. So it would not shock me at all to see him in the game tonight at some point.
Brunsey, I appreciate it. Did you give up your location? I know you said there's, the breakfast buffet and the jokes there, but are you downtown?
Yeah, we're on, let me give you a cross street here. On South 4th Avenue.
Oh, you're right around the corner from me. Are you going to breakfast, or are you eating at the hotel?
No, we're gonna head out here in a minute. As you would expect, Schaefer has found a Cuban breakfast place that we're gonna go check out. So,
how long did it take him to do that?
He had it before we were up here, so it's been on the manifest for a while.
I'm not mad at him because I know it's either going to be Victor's or he's going to Maria's. Which one is it?
I don't know. I'm just getting in the car and being driven there. I think it's Victor's.
Okay.
I don't know. There should be bacon involved.
Hey, it's not like I spent 8 hours yesterday looking for a good restaurant and settling on breakfast for dinner yesterday. I'm still mad at myself, Bruncy.
Yeah, BC swears by this place called the Hen House that's kind of down here somewhere.
Well, if you're down there, you might as well just go to Keys.
I don't know what that is. Is that a breakfast place?
Yeah, it's pretty famous. They have one in Wisconsin too. I went there with my buddy Brian a long time ago. He's a big Keys guy.
Got it. Well, how much longer you got here? We want to pick you up?
I've got about Ravi.
40
Robbie will kick me out in 40 minutes.
I don't know if I can wait that long. Sorry.
Well, I'll be moseying around with the rest of the homeless people downtown, Bruncy. That's where you'll find me.
Got it. We'll look for it.
All right, buddy.
Real quick before we let you go, I told you I was going to ask, and I'm going to. Let's get a season prediction and a prediction for tonight.
Would you stop?
I'm not going to stop. No, never.
He said no. No, Damon, zip it.
No.
A perfect total would be 6.5 wins. I'm going to go on the low side, having not seen anything, so I'm going to go 6-6.
Okay.
And I think Minnesota barely nips Nebraska tonight. I think I had a 25-22 score.
I kind of like
what
that.
I put on the site today. So that's where we're at.
All right, Michael Brunt sipping on the Haterade for Coach Rick tonight.
Say hi. High quality H2O there, Bruncy.
Say hi to Schaefer.
Unlike me with my propel, we're going to propel Nebraska to victory.
That's right.
All right,
buddy.
That's Michael Bruns from Husker 24/7 on the Warhorse Sportsbook phone line. Well, listen, I gotta give him a little bit of crap. I like optimists.
I do too. I'm definitely concerned though. Are you vibing with me though on our misconception, I think, of Sims, or do you think he's just going to come out and be? Watch him come out and be like Vic, and I'll be like, oh, damn DB.
No, I think you're
I
right.
I just don't see it.
I think you're right.
I just don't see it.
I think they're going to be incredibly particular about when they ask him to make big plays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're, we talked about this on the podcast last week, right? Where I think they're going to put him in positions to be successful and not in positions where he has to do everything, right? And if that's the case, then he's not going to look like Michael Vick or Johnny Manziel or whoever else, where they're just the entire.
Oh, there you go. Way to shake it up with an athletic. He's not Steve Young, right?
Yeah, because the entire offense was built around those guys, right?
Yeah, I could just see
was predicated on Johnny Manziel just wiggling around.
Steve Young.
Well, so would the rest of the free world, Shane. But like I said, I like a 17-25 for a $190, and like maybe 9 for 45 or 8 for I just don't think it. We've got this thing built up like. And he told you right away in the presser, he's like, I'm a pass first guy. Am I big and strong and athletic? Sure. But it's been mostly out of the scramble. Like design quarterback runs take more than just athleticism.
Yeah, no, there's a different skill set there, right? There's a different skill set.
Especially with the if you get involved in any sort of read game.
Yes,
right?
with your eyes, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because that's one thing that, obviously Taylor Martinez was an incredible runner. I don't think he was very good at the read stuff.
No, he wasn't. It was
I think he predetermined when
he was going, he was going.
Yeah, and so that's a totally different skill set than a scrambling quarterback. And so I don't know. Maybe he's got the skill set to do more traditional design QB runs or QB reads and stuff like that. but that's not really what was asked of him at Georgia Tech. It was more.
And so far, that just hasn't served Nebraska well, right?
No,
I mean,
and I don't know that they've had the guy for it, right? I don't know that they've had the guy that was good at that. They see athletic quarterbacks and they assume they can.
Well,
teach that.
Healthy Martinez was pretty good. We just.
No, he was a good runner. He wasn't a good leader.
We didn't love being so quarterback centric in the run game. We didn't love being so quarterback centric in the run game with Jamal Lord. Now we bought Frost some time because they won, right? But it's like, look at his passing stats. I mean, we wouldn't stand for that today.
No, absolutely not. All right, coming up next, I want to get some keys to the game from Damon and myself. We will give predictions at the end of the show because I am making Damon do that.
Sure to go wrong.
Because
I'm on the broadcast. I can't do predictions.
Okay, whatever. You work for Hurrdat right now. You can work for Nebraska later. This is Benning and Lulla. We got more coming up next.
Bossy.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds.
Their house potatoes do look good, though.
Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
This is Ravi Lulla. I want to tell you about our friends at Rockbrook Camera. They have two great locations, 168th and Center in Omaha and on 70th and Pioneer in Lincoln. You can also shop online, rockbrookcamera.com. They are all about getting what's right for you. It's not just about selling you a camera. It's about finding the right gear to help you become a real photographer, whatever that means for you. They offer support after the sale, including different classes that you can take. They've got all of the latest technology and a couple different ways you can get involved in the camera game. Trade in your old gear when you're ready to upgrade, or you can also visit their extensive rental department if you want to try some things out or just need some things temporarily. That's Rockbrook Camera, rockbrookcamera.com. All right, DB.
All right, Ravi.
How you feeling? We're getting down to it.
I'm okay. I'm making fun of Schaefer wanting to go get Cuban breakfast, and I would be the guy that would try to find like regular sausage patties and bacon. So he's like, I know that defeats the purpose of going to a Cuban place for breakfast, but hey.
Yeah, I don't know that I know what Cuban breakfast even means.
So like I looked at it yesterday, and they have like like Cuban stewed potatoes. They've got spicy potatoes. They've got chorizo. They've got black beans and rice. They have rice pancakes.
So I'm a big chorizo guy.
Yeah, I am too.
I love chorizo.
I am too. Shout out to Fairway, who has some of the best in-house chorizo going. Doesn't brown greasy either. It's really good. But when it comes to breakfast, I'm more of a traditional breakfast meats guy.
Okay.
Like I don't even get steak normally. Like I'm either a bacon, sausage, ham.
Kind of been on this kick recently because I go out to eat for breakfast a lot because why not? And I've kind of been on this chicken fried steak breakfast kick.
That's Caleb. That is his favorite breakfast meal.
It comes with the gravy, and I really like the sausage gravy on top of the chicken fried steak. It's probably been a couple months I've been on this kick because I used to be a biscuits and gravy guy, but I was like, wait a second, instead of more biscuits, why don't I just eat more meat?
Yeah, I'm out on biscuits.
I know.
It's a waste of space, right? Like I could
tell us how you really feel.
I could feel full on something, with much more protein, and I could eat 7 sausage patties before I'd eat like one biscuit.
I could eat 7 sausage patties.
Well, I probably could.
No, I believe you. I've seen you order like a whole thing of bacon just to go and be like, all right, I got to get this home.
I'm good. It's totally fine.
So Terrence on the YouTube comments, you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Twitter. Obviously, we're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities as well. But he we were kind of talking about, hey, this is the right time to catch Minnesota. And he kind of had a question about that. He goes, I continue to hear folks say we are catching Minnesota at the right time. Can anyone explain why Minnesota's changes are a benefit for Nebraska, even with the system they've had in place and been successful with? And I thought that was an interesting question, right? Because he makes a fair point. You know, Minnesota's going through fewer changes than Nebraska is. I'll touch on one thing and then I'll let you go, DB. I think part of it is that Minnesota has historically started a little slow. That's part of the catching them at the right time, right? Like it's even in that season where they won 11 games back in 2019, like they barely got by South Dakota State. I think that was a 1-score game. I think they had a 1-score game against like Fresno State or somebody like that as well before they kind of got rolling in conference play. So that's part of it from my perspective.
Well, I think for me, I didn't read into it any more than the changes at Minnesota as much as because he's had staff turnover.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not new to him. So I think there's two things. Number one, they finally get an alum to come back and coach D-line. That D-line underperformed a year ago. Maybe that may take some transition. The other thing is what you just said. They're historically slow starters for whatever the reason. And I think some of it has to do with it's such a feel run game offense. Like what Minnesota does on offense, you don't just hop in and do. It's good. It's better over time. It's typically why their backs get better as the game wears along, just because of the scheme, right? So some of that is just their philosophy. They enjoy wearing you down and playing for the long haul, right? So I think they ramp up their packages with each week further in the season. They don't start trying to hit on all cylinders. They start with trying to do a few things well. I think that's just kind of been what Minnesota's MO is. But again, this year because I don't say that a ton. Well, you know, this is the year. I just think I'm hoping it takes a little more time for Minnesota to figure out how they want to play with their new toys versus how they have to play in the long haul in the Big Ten.
Well, so that's the other thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, is there might be kind of a conflict there, like an internal, not like infighting, but in terms of what they want to do, because it has seemed like in the past, some of their decisions to play offense the way they have been not just a philosophical issue, but kind of out of necessity, right? They didn't have a lot of dynamic playmakers. Tanner Morgan was not, you know, like an NFL talent necessarily at the quarterback position.
Although the Steelers did just cut him with their last cuts.
Yeah, he got a shot for sure, and I tototally get that.
I would have been cringing. It's bad enough I had to put up with Mason Rudolph, but that's neither here nor there right now for this particular discussion.
But you know what I mean? It's kind of an interesting dynamic where it's okay. Is it culturally and philosophically they want to play the way they have in terms of wearing you down and pounding the football and running up the middle and really punishing you the way they did with Mo Ibrahim and that kind of thing? Or is it just they didn't have the option to do much else? So there might be, like you said.
Well, remember, once upon a time, Minnesota's third string running back would come in a game and run for Trey Protz would come in and get you 80, and you're like,
yeah,
how are we his coming out party a couple years ago? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think a lot of it was just philosophical.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see, has that philosophy changed with different personnel? Has it become, hey, we're going to, I don't think they're going to air it out, but there might be some conflict there.
And conversely, is one of the keys, as I would tell you, I think Nebraska has to be just the opposite. I think, I'm going to be off maybe a couple of carries, but the number has to be somewhere between 35 and 38 carries from the running back position. And I'll even include the fullback. So if I give you 38 runs from the backfield and I give you 7 design QB runs, you're probably at like 45 plays.
Mm-hmm.
that leaves you room for 24 pass attempts, and that would include probably a few scrambles. Maybe he's got to pull the ball down or and run, or another
Actually
quarterback
let
comes in and run, and that gets me to about 69, 70 plays. I just think if Nebraska's playing the way that they want to, that number from the running back positions has to be in the high 30s. For them to be playing well, high 30s.
You don't want Jeff Sims to run the ball 15 times a game.
No, and I don't think they want him to, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I again, give me 17 of 25, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 1 pick. I'm going to give you a little grace on 1, right? Deflections happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But commit to running the football. Because right now, I think Minnesota's going to go too deep up front, at least for those in that first half, because they're looking for some guys to step up and have to deliver.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. And in terms of the play distribution, right? We talked about this a little bit before. If he throws more than 25 times a game, I'm going to start to get real uncomfortable. My number's closer to like 20 to 22. I would love to see him in that range and have the rest be majority running back run, but also some QB run in there as well. All right, coming up next, it's going to be Damon's least favorite segment of the show. I'm going to get some predictions out of him. I'm going to try and squeeze those out of DB, and we will get you sent off for the rest of the day for Nebraska and Minnesota. You're listening to Benning and Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. A beat, a pulse, hope. Yes, there is life to these Huskers.
And you hear those drum beats, and then you're like, okay, you can feel it. And I think Rule knows that. He's tried to hit that right in the teeth. I got up there and just crushed it.
History may be against them, but their season hopes are alive.
Skins! Touchdown, Nebraska! Off to the races. 10-5, touchdown, Nebraska.
Now the scene shifts to Matt Rule and the rest of the new coaching staff.
We are where top producers go to be with other top producers. We want to be with the best of the best.
Touchdown! His second interception on the season. Multiple flags come down on the return, but it's going to be Nebraska football.
Huskers, Gophers.
I'm done. Let's go. Let's go.
The season kicks off tonight.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score!
Brown for the win. The kick is up. And it is good. He got it. Nebraska wins it. 2nd 10. Hawkins in the gun gets the snap. Sets, throws, batted down. Intercepted. He got a Sue to the 20, 15. Hawkins traps him, knocks him. Touchdown, Sue. Let's see. They're going to put it down. Yep, at the 47-yard line. So if he were to hit it, it'll go in the books as the longest in school history. This is an attempt at 57 yards. Does he have enough? Is it long enough? He got it!
Huskers, Gophers, are you ready?
We are ready here on the Damon Benning Show with
Well done, Shane Schillerberg. Well done.
Terrific stuff there from Shane on that open. We're also ready for you to call our friends over at Pratt Dental in North Platte, Nebraska. Dr. Pratt is the only dentist in Nebraska that provides the BioClear method and modern smile design. It can correct many aesthetic dilemmas in a permanent and less invasive manner than traditional treatments such as crowns. Make sure you give Pratt Dental a call at 308-221-2800. Damon Benning with me here.
Ravi Lulla.
How are you feeling about our prediction segment? I know you're not a predictions guy.
Well, I mean, it's fine. Like, I'll go out on a limb. Okay. I do them all the time for other sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when it comes to Nebraska or college football in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, injuries.
Yeah.
Injuries.
Well, I mean, like our guy Cam Rising tonight with Utah, right? I'm a big fan of Utah.
Yep.
I love their lines.
They'll still win though, but I get it. Yeah, I totally get it.
But you wonder how long does that Cam Rising injury linger into the season? You know, even when he is cleared, how healthy and effective is he going to be? What do the backups look like? I mean, Nate Johnson runs like a 10-5, 100 meter. Like maybe maybe Nate Johnson's incredible. I have no idea. So I totally understand what you're saying there. Because if they've got a healthy Cam Rising, like I said before, I kind of like them as a sleeper playoff team. Without him, they're probably not in that category unless one of those backups surprises me. So I get what you mean. And listen, if there's injuries and stuff, I won't hold you to it. We'll give you a little grace here if we've got some injuries. But before we get to season predictions, I do want to talk about the game a little bit tonight in terms of how it's going to go.
Is there a game?
Are you guys going?
Can you believe that stadium only holds 50,000? I thought it was more than that.
No, I think they kind of made it that size on purpose. You know, they wanted a venue that they could get packed a lot easier. I mean, listen, Minnesota Gophers football isn't drawn 90,000. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not with the pro sports up there. That's just not the vibe. That's what I took away from it. At least I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, Sam, we're going.
Maybe well, you're going. I'm not going. You're already up there.
Well, apparently half of Nebraska's media is here as well. Although I've only seen a couple of the guys.
Well, you know, you do kind of like to keep to yourself sometimes. Maybe you
I know, and if I was gonna go out on a limb, I would have met Sip and Robin last night, but I did not feel like getting dressed for Murray's.
You weren't feeling so it's not that you weren't feeling the steak. You weren't feeling the having to.
No, I would have eaten the steak, gladly, right? But I'm like, they had reservations. It's kind of bougie, and I was like, nah.
So it wasn't a hoodie restaurant, is what you're telling me?
No, but Hell's Kitchen was amazing. It was amazing.
All right, let's get into
Sans the guy urinating in the corner.
Well, that's less than ideal.
Had Andy Kendi mortified. Say, what the?
That's not how you want to experience a burger, right?
No.
So you know, we've talked about obviously the game tonight with a lot of different people today. Michael Rose-Ivey earlier, really good stuff. Michael Bruntz. We like the Michaels today, apparently.
Michael.
And then, you know, obviously on Twitter and YouTube, we've been chatting with people all show as well. So I'll ask you some of the same things that I've been asking everybody else at this point, because I like to get your perspective on things. That's why we do a radio show together, I guess. But
I sure hate what you have to say, but man, can we work together?
That would be a tough hang.
Wow.
But so if Nebraska wins tonight, what are some of the things that for you are total non-negotiables? Like, it has to happen if Nebraska gets a W.
Staying on schedule on offense, number one.
Okay.
I just can't afford the silly false starts, procedural, can't get lined up correctly, that kind of thing. Because it's not that they can't overcome it. It just lets me know where your head is at. Mm-hmm. So I think that's number one. The other thing is I think you have to break even in the kicking game, right? No cheapies, sudden change. You got to be on your A game. And then the last one is the easiest one, and people hate to say it or hear it, but it is what it is. I'd like to have a year where Nebraska can finish on the plus side in terms of the turnover margin.
Yeah.
It's like finding a unicorn the last 20 years of this program. It's just, they just don't come out on the plus side of turnover margins. So got to take care of the football and give you a good chance to be in this thing.
Yeah, I believe they have, since the crazy 2003 season where they created a ton of turnovers, specifically interceptions.
Was that Bullock and those guys just running rampant?
Yeah, they ended up with like 20 some interceptions as a group. That was Bo's year as the D coordinator. Besides that year, since then, I believe they have finished in the plus margin on turnovers. 1 year, it was 2016 with Mike Riley, and they started that year, 7-0? Yeah. And they were only like +2 in their turnover margin. It's not like they were killing it, right? They were just better than terrible.
Just take the ball away more than you give it up.
Which is not a big ask. I know it feels like it in Nebraska at this point because we're going on 2 decades of futility in that area, but it's actually a very doable concept, right?
Yeah. Sam took the deep dive, right? The more quarterback run game you have as it being the focal point, the more apt you are to turn the ball over. And we're going through 15 years of it. Well,
And-
probably 10. I don't want to exaggerate. TA was more dual. Martinez, Taylor was the run guy. Adrian Martinez, super run heavy. It lends itself to putting the ball on the carpet.
Yeah, it certainly does. On the season prediction side. Oh, so let's get your game prediction for tonight. What are you feeling?
I know earlier in the week I said 24-20 Nebraska. I'm gonna change that a smidge. I'll go 24-23 Huskers.
Okay, we got a W from DB. I'm gonna go 2017 Nebraska. The score, not the year. 20 for Nebraska, 17 for the Gophers. We got about 2 minutes left here, DB. So I won't torture you with schedule talk as we get your.
I'll give you a season prediction though.
Yeah. So let me just lay it out here for you real quick because I told you I was going to try and get you to six wins. So I think there's only one game on the schedule that they just can't win, and that's Michigan. Is that fair?
Fair.
I think there's 4 games that are very winnable. Colorado, Northern Illinois, Louisiana Tech, Northwestern. Is that fair?
Yeah, they win all 4 of those.
Okay. That leaves me one game they probably should lose, which is Wisconsin, and 6 games that I think are coin flips. That's Minnesota, Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland, and Iowa. Is that fair?
Yeah. See, I throw Purdue in the they'll win. So
okay.
I'm already at 5.
I'll say, so you're already at 5. So all you're asking for is to get you to a bowl game that you go 1-4 in coin flip games.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be home for the holidays. Nebraska's going to go 7-5.
Boom! I got you all the way to 7-5, baby. That was the goal.
I do not think I will be home for the holidays. I'll be back for New Year's, but I don't celebrate that really anyway. Yeah, I think Nebraska goes 7-5. I tried to get to 6-6. I did.
Yeah, but if you've got Purdue and a will win, it's hard to get lower than 7.
Yeah,
I've got them at 7-5 as well.
That means they'll be 5-7, and everybody will be pissed, and it'll be like, man, those 2 guys, bunch of yahoos.
It's a bunch of yahoos on Benning and Lulla. That's what we do, though. DB, we appreciate you making things work with the hotel room. Make sure you stick around.
No telling what you're going to get tomorrow morning, though. I'm just telling you because I won't have slept. That's the truth.
Make sure you come down to Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill tonight to watch the game, and I'll be doing a live podcast for post game right here with Andrew Rogers. We'll see you tomorrow on Benning and Lulla.